A long time ago, 30 years to be exact, 30 years before the original Star Wars films take place. That's right, we're talking about the prequels. Hey everybody, this is David, and today I'm going to be talking about Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, the first prequel in George Lucas's saga, Star Wars saga. And yeah, of course, you know, Star Wars Episode 7 is less than 100 days away now, and I am very excited about it. Who isn't? I know there's a few people that probably aren't, but those few people don't really matter in life. What matters is that we, the rest of us around the world, are excited about Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and I thought to myself, I think it's time to review the previous Star Wars films, starting with Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now, the prequels are, you know, regarded as, you know, a lot of people don't really like them. I'm gonna put it that way. And for me personally, well, let's get talking about it right now. First of all, we got the plot. Basically, these two Jedis are going to save this queen on Naboo. They help her escape because this Trade Federation wants to take over Naboo, and when they crash on another planet called Tatooine, they stumble upon a boy with special gifts. That's right, he's a Jedi named Anakin Skywalker. Wink, wink, guess who that could be. And yeah, they find out, they decide to take him off the planet, but first they have to, you know, wrestle with his slave owner. But once they do all that, they get him off the planet, deal with the Sith Lord, and you know, the queen decides to go back to her home planet after going to Coruscant to plead to the government, you know, saying that, you know, we need your help, government. But since they're like idiots over there, she decides to take matters into her own hands and begins the War of a Century. So plot is pretty basic. It's not like overly blown, so that's good. It's not complex, because let's face it, after clearly George Lucas, you know, he has an eye for special effects, and that's definitely one of the strengths of the movie, is the special effects. Even though, in my opinion, for Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, the special effects don't really hold up. You know, the characters are all okay. There's some characters, it's more to do with the acting, in my opinion, than the actual characters. Because if you read about the characters and look into their background and all that, maybe because also I've been watching Clone Wars recently, and that has helped fleshed out a lot of those characters a little bit more and much better than how George Lucas did it here. But you know, there's still some cool characters. Like I think Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn is definitely one of the highlights in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Obi-Wan, for me, doesn't really do much in Episode 1, in The Phantom Menace. He actually, I think Ewan McGregor actually shines more later on in Episode 2 and 3. But in here, he's, yeah, I'll admit he's kind of bland. Natalie Portman, she's alright. Jake Lloyd as Anakin Skywalker. I feel bad for the kid, because I don't really blame the actors at all for any of this. But Jake Lloyd as Anakin is very annoying. So is the famous or infamous Jar Jar Binks. We all know how annoying Jar Jar Binks is, and yes, in my opinion, Anakin and Jar Jar are definitely the two most annoying characters in this freaking film. And I mean, what can you do, guys? This, you know, Star Wars has always been aimed for a young audience, you know, an audience of every generation. But George Lucas had always had it in mind that he wanted kids to enjoy these films too, and that's, you know, the whole purpose of Jar Jar. And I get that. I mean, it's just, I wish he could have done them better. Now, a lot of people would go and say, yeah, but C-3PO was also annoying in the original trilogy. Not this annoying, not to this extent. And that's where I'll, like, I actually think C-3PO has a couple of good laughs in the original trilogy. And even in this one, I think there's some funny little moments between C-3PO and R2-D2, which, you know, brings that familiarity back with these prequels. Because despite the new technology, which the original films never had, you know, much of, until George Lucas, you know, did the special editions and redid them, yeah, the prequels kind of feel like it feels more updated. But whatever, you know, George Lucas, I think when he does something right, he does it right. And I think as a storyteller, he's good. I just think as a director, he's horrible because he's even admitted that he doesn't have patience with actors. He's admitted this in interviews that he just wants them to do what they're supposed to, which shows that, you know, he doesn't pay attention to the acting and all that. He just cares about showing off the visuals and showing off, you know, the cool action sequences, which is all cool too. And I'm not gonna lie, I think the action sequences in the prequels are some of the most fascinating battles put on, you know, this entire saga, this entire franchise, blowing the original Star Wars lightsaber battles and even the you know, space battles all away. I agree with that. That's something that the prequels actually have over the originals. I will say also that one of my least favorite parts in this movie is the pod race somewhere in the middle while they're on Tatooine. I think it's one of the most boring scenes in the history of the franchise. There's a lot of things, you know, in the prequels that annoy a lot of people, but the pod race is the part where I always skip nowadays. I don't even watch the pod race anymore because I just get bored from it. And some people I've heard defended the pod race and think they find it interesting. A lot of people actually find the pod race as one of the more interesting aspects of the Phantom Menace, or the more fun aspects. But I disagree. I think it's very boring and very underwhelming. My favorite moment is obviously the duel between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. I think Darth Maul is a fascinating character. Even though we don't get much on him, he just looks badass, you know? He's not interesting, like, character-wise because you don't know much about him, but maybe that's what makes him interesting, is because he's so silent and he looks menacing. You want to know more about him, but the movie doesn't really focus on him too much. But that's the great thing about the Clone Wars animated series, because they bring Darth Maul back, spoiler alert. And yeah, you might want to check that out, because apparently the Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon is in canon. So that means if they ever want to bring him back in the movies, because apparently they didn't kill him off in that show, they can always bring Darth Maul back. But for what it's worth here, I think Darth Maul served his purpose. I think they shouldn't have killed him off at the end, though. I think they should have kept him around and used him instead of Count Dooku. I didn't see the point of, like, killing Darth Maul off just to have a new apprentice in the form of Count Dooku in the next film. But whatever, you know, again, it shows George Lucas that he didn't make a lot of the right decisions in the prequels. I will say, though, I don't think the film is as bad as a lot of people make it out to be. Yes, it's the weakest of the Star Wars prequel films, or films in general, but it's nowhere near as bad as people make it out to be. I take this movie over some of the worst movies that Hollywood has ever created. This is nowhere near the worst. And I think people should really stop over exaggerating when they say that, because it could have been a lot worse. And for that, I'm going to give this movie a 6 out of 10. I enjoyed it. Yes, I'll admit there's problems with it, but I don't think those problems, you know, take away from the enjoyment that the film has. And there is some enjoyment there. I already pointed some of the things that I really enjoyed about the movie. And everyone is going to have their differences, I know, on this. And but I do know there are some people who do enjoy the prequels like I have. So, and don't think they're as bad as people make them out to be as well. So, guys, with that being said, hopefully I'll be reviewing Attack the Clones next. So keep an eye out on that. And until next time, guys, may the Force be with you.